everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll give everyone a chance to get settled before we go ahead and start. Thanks for joining us. Hi, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. So this is a webinar on the Standards Development Forum from Standards Coordinating Body. I'm Dawn Henke. I'm the Senior Scientific Program Manager. We also have on the line Catherine Zander and Robert Shaw from the SCB as well. If you have any questions or anything, there will be a chance for questions and answers at the end. So please feel free to submit them in the chat, either publicly or to Catherine Zander, and she'll be monitoring the chat throughout. On the agenda today, what we'd like to talk about is a general welcome and welcome you guys for all attending and an overview of what we're planning to address today. And then an intro on standards for regenerative medicine and really the needs and the impact for standards in the regenerative medicine field. And then some updates on SCB and what we actually do and what our goals are and our mission. And then we really want to go into the details on the Standards Development Forum and our previous discussions and really what the forum looks like and what our goals for the forum are, and kind of give you guys a chance to ask questions and update you guys on our intentions for the forum and what we're going to be doing going forward. And then let you guys know about some new initiatives that have come from the discussions at the forum, and some initiatives that are particularly public facing and will create some good resources for you guys as the public to use. And then a chance for questions and answers and a conclusion. So please feel free throughout the entire webinar to submit any questions through the chat function, and we'll address those at the end in the questions and answer session. So thank you all for your involvement and your participation in this webinar. Everybody, we are so glad to have all of you guys participating and have you guys learn more about SCB and our Standards Development Forum. And this is an exciting opportunity for us to come together and share this information with you guys about the standards for regenerative medicine in the field and our Standards Development Forum and what we're doing to pull together all the organizations that are developing standards. So there's a real need for regenerative medicine standards. They have made great impact on the field and can make a big difference when it comes to actually getting products to market and ensuring quality for products. So they, in general, can encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing by all industry and academics, and bring together all different kinds of stakeholders and allow all the stakeholders to work together and collaborate and share their views. They also can help lead a path and help guide a path for innovation and product development, and lead some guidelines into to help ensuring that can be done, and also speed that pathway up for innovation. They can also accelerate regulatory review of new therapies. The use of standards can really speed that up. And they can reduce costs to manufacturers and patients when implemented. They can really help streamline and simplify and speed up the introduction of certain product development. They also can build public support for new therapies. They give the public a sense of trust and understanding in new therapies, especially in areas such as regenerative medicine. Well, there's so many new innovations happening and new changes happening the public isn't always aware of. It can really help build trust and understanding so that people can feel confident in that the quality of their product is safe and effective. So there's a great need in developing standards to ensure that there's collaboration happening across stakeholders from all different areas in order to ensure openness, fairness, that these standards that are developed actually reflect the current state of the field and the current technology, and also to ensure that standards that are developed can benefit the whole field and everybody involved in the field from all different types of areas and stakeholders. And then also that these standards that are developed can establish processes that can simplify logistics in competitive and pre-competitive areas. So it's really important that all different types of stakeholders and all different experts are involved and collaborate together to develop standards. So SCB was founded in 2016 and launched in late 2017 as a nonprofit organization to really help pull together stakeholders from all over and help advance standards for the whole field of regenerative medicine. So there's no vested interest in any specific scientific or policy approaches or anything like that. Really, we're here to benefit the whole field and pull together stakeholders and help them through the standards development process, as well as educate stakeholders on standards for regenerative medicine. So SCB is not a standards development organization. So we don't publish standards. We're not invested in actually publishing standards or doing that. We're really here as a nonprofit to help guide experts and help ease the ability of experts to get involved in the standards development process, as well as educate experts on standards. So we serve as a communication vehicle across all stakeholders, including government agencies and industry, academia as well. So what we do is we help to pull together and guide experts throughout the whole standards development process, from upstream to the downstream process. So we pull together a lot of the regenerative medicine community, from industry, care providers, patients, researchers, government agencies, as well as standards development organizations, and help identify standards needs, assess prioritization and feasibility of these for the whole field, and then help guide through the process of actually developing standards, to educating and awareness of standards after they've been published, and then all the way through supporting adoption and implementation of standards as well. So our goal as SCB is to help guide the community and guide experts throughout this entire process. We have quite a few resources that we've developed to help in this area and help with this education and help throughout the whole process. So we have multiple reports to help inform about standards and standards development. We also host multiple webinars and workshops on the importance of standards, the current standards landscape, some specific topic areas. We also have multiple fact sheets available in different areas, such as helping people understand the standards development process, specific standards development organizations and information on those, the benefits of standards, information on standards terminology, types of standards, lots of fact sheets with those examples of some of them. They're all available on our website. We also have a newsletter, a quarterly newsletter that we put out to try to keep everyone up to date and informed on the current status of standards for regenerative medicine and how they can get involved, what's been published, and any necessary information for the public. As well as we also have our sectors. We have our tissue engineering, gene therapy, and cell therapy sectors, where we provide specific information on each of those sectors as well and allow for calls, quarterly calls for input for anyone who's interested in those particular sectors and getting involved in some of the discussions and needed areas, critical areas in those sectors as well. So one of the reports that we've developed is our Regenerative Medicine Landscape Report. This is a report available on our website that gives an overview of existing standards relevant to regenerative medicine. So it's broken down by application area as well as sectors. And it also starts to identify some potential gaps and needs in the areas. So currently we are working to expand this landscape report into an interactive portal. So that it would be more user-friendly and more searchable in order to find more annotated information on each of these standards that we've collected. And this should be launched in March, is our intention to launch this portal. And it will allow for a way to search for and sort through all of the standards that we've collated in the landscape report. You'll be able to see new information to the portal, recent activity, recently published standards, as well as be able to sort through them based off of functional areas, sectors, keywords, the organization that's published them, the publication status, and the types of standards as well. And so our intention is to launch this in March, and this should be a really great resource for the public. So that if you're looking to understand a standard or find a particular standard for your production process, or to understand if there's one that really would help you, this should help you sort through that and find your specific needs a little easier, as well as they're going to be further annotated with more descriptive information to help you identify and understand the content of the standard, and links directly to the standard itself and where you can access it. We also intend to roll in more information on our needed standards report into the same interactive portal. So our needed standards report is a report that we've pulled together and developed through interactions with the community, the regenerative medicine community, through surveys, workshops, sector calls, interviews, to identify and prioritize needed areas of standards for the regenerative medicine community. And we've identified 39 areas of needed standards, identified and prioritized 39 areas of needed standards. They're also broken down in a similar manner to our landscape report by sector as well as functional area. And this is also available on our website. We've recently, in last month, released a revised version of this updated version of this needed standards report, where we updated it and added 9 new standards areas in it, that some of them standards that were in the previous version have also been reprioritized and reassessed. So we also intend to take these top prioritized areas in this needed standards report that have been identified and prioritized by the community, and start doing feasibility assessments on these areas in order to determine which areas will have the biggest impact, be most feasible to move forward into an actual standard currently, and really determine how to allocate our resources in making sure that these standards can get created and be available for the community's use. So we intend to develop feasibility reports on these top prioritized standards. The 9 new standards of areas needed standards are listed here. And we will be putting all of these slides publicly and send them all to everyone who's registered for the webinar as well. So just so you know, all of this information will be available after the webinar. But these are the 9 new areas that were identified for need and added to the report. As you can see, they cross a lot of different focuses and different sectors as well. So we also have our projects that we work on to help advance specific standards that are under development and help pull together experts in drafting, commenting, and help them through the whole standards development process. And this is just a focus of our main projects that we've been working on. As you can see here, the ones that are highlighted in black have been published and are available for use and implementation currently. We also have all the ones that are highlighted in orange are ones that have advanced dramatically into a new stage of development within the last few months. So as you can see, a lot of these are really rapidly moving forward, and we've been working to actually shorten the timeline to actually get these standards developed and accessible for the public implementation. As I'm sure some of you are aware, standards development can take quite a bit of time, and really getting that necessary consensus can be a long process. And so what SCB has been working to do is really shorten that timeline. And as you can see here by the ones highlighted in orange, these have all really been successfully moved forward in the last few months. So I think that's a great improvement. And like I said, all of these slides will be available for the public access and after the webinar, and we'll send them out to you so you guys can look at this a little bit closer in more detail. We also have 4 brand new projects that have happened in the last couple months that I wanted to make all of you guys aware of as we're working to ensure that these working groups are full of really all the needed experts that should be involved. So if anyone's interested in joining or getting involved in any of these areas, please contact us and let us know. We're happy to make sure you can get connected with the right group and the right person. But we have 4 new areas of projects that have in the last couple months. We've started a chain of identity, chain of custody effort to try to develop a new identification scheme, a standardized identification scheme for chain of identity and chain of custody. We've also been developing a feasibility report on assessing standards moving forward for lentiviral vectors. And there's also 2 standards that are under development that we're pulling together experts for to ensure that they get proper expert comments and expert input. One is for nucleic acid synthesis, which is general definitions and requirements for the production and quality control of synthesized gene fragments, genes, and genomes. And this is under development in ISO. There's also another effort under development in ISO for general requirements for cell line authentication that we're looking for to make sure that it gets expert input. And as you can see here, SCB, we've been working to really help advance some of these projects. We've had 23 standards projects that we've been coordinating, which have 4 have advanced to SDOs prior to SCB getting involved. 18 have been advanced with SCB's involvement. And 1 we're currently starting without an SDO identified yet. But we've advanced projects through 85 different new stages of development, which is quite exciting as SCB to be able to do. So today I wanted to really let you guys know about one of our new initiatives, our Standards Development Forum that we started in November. We had our first meetings in November. And so as SCB and what we were hearing from stakeholders, that there was really a need to harmonize and create collaboration across the whole field of standards development for regenerative medicine. That there was lots of groups and standards development organizations and efforts that were not being brought together in that one conversation. And sometimes they were duplicative or overlapping or conflicting, and that was very confusing for the public. And that it was also quite confusing as there was no one resource for people to find out what was happening across all of these organizations. So it was hard to keep track and find information people were looking for. So really there was a need for a place to help facilitate those conversations and help pull together all that information into one accessible resource. So experts in the regenerative medicine community have identified areas of needed standards that may benefit from creation of new standards. And that was kind of what we've done through our needed standards reports. We identified that there's all these areas of need, but there's really no one there, no process to helping ease these conversations amongst all the standards development organizations and make them aware of these needs that the stakeholders have identified. And also that every organization that's developing standards has its own particular areas of focus, its own niche, and its own goals. And that coordination among these organizations developing standards is needed to address these needs. We really needed to coordinate amongst these to make sure that these needs from the community are addressed. So to do this, SCB established the Standards Development Forum. And so this is really a forum for representatives from each of these organizations that are involved in developing standards to come together and collaborate and make everyone aware of what they're doing, as well as allow for that chance for collaboration and harmonization across all of these efforts. And so it's a way to pull together everyone and help facilitate those conversations that really need to be had. And so we had our first meeting in November and brought together multiple different organizations with the goals of coordinating and developing standards by facilitating the placement of identified needs with the appropriate SDOs and allow that conversation between the SDOs to determine which standards should be developed by which SDO, as well as provide a mechanism for transparent, facilitated discussions that lead to agreements on the best course of action, identify further initiatives which to harmonize and foster cooperation among these organizations. So what kind of initiatives can we do? What areas are the most important and critical areas to move forward on harmonizing and fostering cooperation? What are some particular topics that we could bring these organizations together to focus on to really help the public? And also a chance to create a sense of community among the organizations that are developing standards that benefit the regenerative medicine community. So we had great in-depth discussions and a really successful meeting where we encouraged the discussion of sharing of ideas between these organizations. We prepared questions and suggestions to spur this discussion and welcomed any additional input and ideas from all of those organizations involved. And that many of them, we are going to share a lot of that information that came out of these discussions with you guys today. And it was most of the information we'll be sharing really was created from these discussions that we had and these ideas that came out of these discussions. So as I said, we brought all these organizations together, and we brought together multiple different groups of organizations that were developing standards. And we really focused on talking about current efforts and topics of what they were currently working on, the needs for the regenerative medicine community and how these could be addressed and how we could devote our resources to getting these addressed, the areas for needed collaboration, as well as we talked a lot about some of the community challenges. So what are the challenges, amongst these organizations, but also the community in general that we could work together to help address? And so we brought together representatives from professional organizations, standards development organizations, accreditation bodies, government agencies, and pharmacopeias. So from all of these different groups, we brought together representatives to have these discussions. So as you can see here, we had multiple different professional organizations and accreditation bodies that were represented and involved in these discussions. We also had standards development organizations that are publishing and advancing standards through the ANSI represented as well. And we had government representatives there to help represent the government and regulatory views in these discussions, as well as pharmacopeias. And so through these discussions, we really had some great points that were made. And so here you can see there's a lot of different areas of efforts and topics that are currently being addressed by all of these organizations. So some organizations are developing multiple of these areas and advancing standards and discussions in many of these areas. And also some of these areas are being advanced within multiple different organizations and groups. So you can really see why there would be such a need for this harmonization, this discussion to happen. And I think here there's a lot of really critical areas that were brought up and discussed, all the way from validation of assays, ancillary materials, even terminology, and something as simple as that really can be a huge confusion and a hurdle across the whole community, and can really create that barrier to understanding between stakeholders. All the way to things that are critical, like cell characterization, and really needed for the actual development of some of these products and some of the manufacturing processes. We also talked about some areas of needed collaboration. So there was really a lot of areas for needed collaboration that were overlapping or found to be critical for the mission of multiple of these organizations. And as you can see here, we've highlighted certain areas that were talked about that were really already underway of being addressed by certain standards under development, and also that SCB is helping to start helping to address and helping to pull experts through the development of standards in these areas, such as nomenclature, outreach and training, starting materials, cell collection starting materials, viral vector characterization, virus inactivation, viral titer. So as you can see here, and certificate of analysis, all of these are really critical areas that are already under development. And this is really a great chance and a really highlighted areas for needed collaboration amongst all of these organizations that we plan to work going forward to really pursue these particular areas that have been highlighted by the forum the forum participants going forward, to really help make sure that these are addressed and that we can help facilitate these discussions amongst these organizations, particularly in these areas where they've identified that they have that barrier for needed collaboration, that need for harmonization. And another really important discussion that we had amongst the forum participants was really around community challenges. And what are some of the challenges that stakeholders in the whole regenerative medicine community are having when it comes to standards and implementing standards or understanding standards or getting involved in standards development? And really, what are some of the main challenges that we could work as a forum with all of these organizations and the resources of all of these organizations to really address? And so as you can see here, this is some of the main areas that were really identified. And I think the main takeaway from these areas is that the biggest challenges appear to be communication to stakeholders about current standards efforts. So really how communicating to all the different types of stakeholders and all the different needs of stakeholders, communicating across all of that about what's currently ongoing in standards development, as well as what's been published and how to use some of those standards and how to implement some of those standards. That there really seems to be an issue in getting that information to the stakeholders who need it, and making sure that they have up-to-date current information and kind of easing their ability to find that. So because we highlighted that as the main takeaway from the community challenges, that really led to some great ideas from these discussions with the forum participants about some new opportunities and initiatives to help address some of these challenges. And so some of the main initiatives and ideas that came out of this discussion was really the idea for a public standards development resource, an open ballot update system, biannual meetings of the forum participants, as well as standards education and outreach. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these individual initiatives and kind of what that will mean, and the ideas going forward of how these can be great resources for stakeholders and the public. One idea that came out of these discussions was really spurred on by that point that it's very hard for stakeholders who want to find information on either published standards or standards under development, or find information on what some of these organizations are currently doing. It's hard to find that information across all of these different organizations, websites, publications. It's really, there's no one place to bring all of that information together and kind of ease the ability of people to find it and find out how they can get involved, or even just find out the stages or status of where certain things are under development. And so because organizations that are developing standards all work on their own schedules and cadence, it's hard for stakeholders to keep track and keep up-to-date information. And so we, as a standards development forum, have thought that a great new initiative and resource for the public would be a standards development resource, where we would pull together all the information from across all of these organizations and all of the main organizations developing standards in regenerative medicine, and bring it into one resource for the public to be able to search and find this information in one place. So it would really be a place to compile all of the efforts of organizations involved in standards for regenerative medicine. So it would include a lot of information, general information on each of these organizations. What are their focuses, what are their missions, what are they currently prioritizing, as well as just specific information on their current standards efforts and some of the current efforts that they're developing, the status of these efforts, what stage are they at, what is the status, do they need any experts to get involved or any particular type of expert, and really highlighting that as well. What do they need from the public? Are there specific subject matter experts that they're looking for, as well as how to get engaged? So clear, concise information for the public to find that, if I'm interested in this and I want to be able to give my input into this, how can I get involved quickly and easily? How can I provide my input, and who do I contact to be able to do that? So the idea is to develop this public resource that we'd put out for use, to be able to find all this information so that people could access that and really ease their way of getting involved and following standards for regenerative medicine. And so what we've done to do this is really developed a template that we'll be sending out to each of these organizations to keep it updated regularly, and then pulling all that information and making it into one resource for the public to use. And we'll be keeping this really frequently updated with current information. We also will be developing we'll also be continuing biannual meetings for the Standards Development Forum to make sure that the forum is meeting regularly and keeping all of the organizations are all keeping everyone up to date on what's going on in their organization. Continuing the discussion on areas and opportunities for harmonization and collaboration, so that we can really help facilitate those discussions and develop any subgroups or initiatives or topics that are really needed in that to help harmonize and and continue that collaboration. Also, an opportunity to discuss new ideas and initiatives to help ease those challenges that stakeholders are finding in standards for regenerative medicine, as well as keep up to date and make sure on all the initiatives that are already underway, and make sure that they're continually up to date and they're being reassessed frequently. So we plan to have biannual meetings of the Standards Development Forum to really accomplish this and keep all of those meetings going and really serve to accomplish all these goals and keep everyone on track. We also intend to keep up on our standards education and outreach, and really continue to do some specific workshops and webinars and further the information on outreach materials on standards for regenerative medicine, to make sure that everybody can really get the questions that they want to get answered, as well as find the information they're looking for, and help educate public on standards for regenerative medicine, help engage experts on standards development, as well as increase the public trust in regenerative medicine, and also reach out to some earlier stage scientists as well. So all of these are intended goals from continuing our standards education and outreach. We also plan on developing a open ballot resource, which will be one place where we'll be able to list and have a resource to find all the open ballots across all of the standards development organizations. So all of the standards that are being written and under development often have open comment periods, so that experts can get involved and read the draft and provide comments and critiques that really need to be addressed. And so, but because each standards development organization has a very varied process and a very, very different way of doing this and different timelines for doing this, we wanted to, as the Standards Development Forum, have one resource where the public could be able to find all of the open comment periods and all the open ballots across all of these organizations and across all of these standards efforts, and be able to access that and figure out when they could get involved and when they could provide those comments, and provide one place where they could find everything that's currently open for comment. And so we're also doing this through a similar mechanism of frequent updates and templates to the standards development organizations to be able to make sure we have frequent, up-to-date, current information on their open ballots and be able to get that out to the public information right away. And put that in one resource for everyone to be able to find and access that. So that's another initiative that we're currently developing and plan to get out to the public shortly. And so I know I've shared a lot of information on the Standards Development Forum and really what we're planning on going forward. And so I also wanted to give everyone a chance to provide any feedback in a post-forum survey. So as you can see here, we have a link for that and information for that so that you could answer some questions, and really also provides more information to us to help make sure that this forum really addresses the public needs. And with that, I wanted to, I'll give everybody a chance to answer that at the end, but the link is right here. I think Katie also plans to send the link in the chat, which is a clickable link to access those forum questions. But with that, I also wanted to open up the webinar to any questions from participants and from you guys about any questions you have about anything I've shared with you today, or any further questions about the Standards Development Forum in general.
Don, a couple of great questions that were asked during the webinar. One of the first is, who is funding our effort and our mission?
Great. Yeah. So SCB, we are like I said, a nonprofit at the beginning. So we are currently getting multiple different funding sources. So we have some government funding through contracts with government, particularly the FDA. And we also have some grants and funding through those sources as well. And we really have multiple different ways of getting funding, but currently most of our funding comes from those two sources.
And another great question that I hope many people here have is, how can they collaborate?
As stakeholders, I think that really a great way to collaborate with SCB in general is to get involved in multiple different initiatives. So there's different ways of getting involved, and it's all dependent on how much you're wanting to really get involved in standards development. So there's multiple different sources. If you're interested on just keeping up to date and being aware of anything that's happening, I would suggest getting involved in making sure you sign up for our newsletters or our sector calls. And that's really a great resource for kind of getting that information, so you can keep aware of anything that's changing, or any new initiatives that are happening, or anything that's been published. If you're really involved if you're wanting to get involved in some of the actual standards development, I think there's multiple different ways to do that as well. You can join some of the working groups where we have regular calls with experts to help really talk through some of the discussions of the standards that are being developed and some of the main technical questions and some of the drafting. Or you could just get involved through some of the comment periods and some of those opportunities where you can get access to a draft for a standard and provide some of the feedback to the groups that are drafting the standard, and make sure that gets addressed as well. And also, if you're interested on learning more about the implementation of standards and and how to actually implement them into your manufacturing process or your needs, we're currently also developing courses to really help teach that information as well. So you could get involved with looking into some of those courses and learning some more about how to actually go about understanding some of the standards and how that would apply to implementing them into your processes. So there's a lot of different ways. And there's also just kind of getting some, if you're looking for general information on standards, you can find that a lot of that on our website as well, and a lot of access to some of our resources that we've pulled together for public use as well.
And I just want to make a couple of points. You can join us as an individual, or you can join as part of your company. So everyone in SDB represents themselves. So if there's something you're really, really interested in, it is not important to us that it is something that is interesting to your employer as well. But it's nice to see it. And also, just to make it very clear, every standard we're working on has its own working group. And Dawn, do you want to explain a little bit how people can get involved in individual working groups?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of the standards that are under development, like I was saying, we have a working group of the experts who really want to get it, who want to be involved in the development of the standard. And each working group can be run slightly differently on, are they monthly calls or things like that. But generally, that's pretty standard for how we run our working groups. Is there's often maybe a monthly call, and then there's sometimes revising or contributing to some of the writing and the drafting a little bit. And the way to get involved with those is really to contact either Katie or myself, which I'm sure she'll send put our emails in the chat right here, so you can have access to our emails, and let us know what group you're interested in. We have a lot of our projects listed on our website, so you could go look at the website and you can kind of see some of the projects that some of the main projects that we've been working on. There's also some of them, quite a few listed here earlier in the presentation. If you're interested in any particular project, you could email Katie or I and let us know, and we'll add you to the working group so that you'll get added to any of the emails that are exchanged between the group, the drafts that are exchanged, as well as added to any of the calls that are happening. And any of those calls. So my first suggestion, if you're interested in a working group, would definitely be to email either Katie or myself, so we can make sure that you get connected to the right person and get involved.
And very quickly, we have an awful lot of working groups that we didn't touch upon at all during this webinar. So I really do encourage you all to take a look at our webpage, or when you sign up for our emails, we will send out calls when we need experts to join our working groups. So there's really something for just about everyone. And we have another great question, Dawn. On the regulator side, is the focus interaction mostly domestic? Because interpretation, implementation can vary greatly region by region.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. That's very, very true. And that's really one of the issues that can happen. Is it's even not just internationally, but within a country, different regions can have different standards and different ways of writing and following those regulations. SCV, we're really an international organization, and our intention is to develop standards that are going to be good for the whole international community. And one of the ways we do that is, although some of our standards are developed in some like ASTM, which is is an international organization, but tend to be thought of as more American, or is involved with ANSI. We also develop standards through ISO, which is an international organization to bring together all the countries across the globe and help develop standards that really are applicable across all those borders and across all of those international regulations. Also involved in the Standards Development Forum, we have multiple international regulators. We're part of that discussion, as well as multiple professional organizations that are international and have international members and are representing their international members, as well as some of the SDOs are clearly international SDOs that are really representing their international needs. So definitely our intention is to make sure that we are developing standards that are not just domestic and that really are international and incorporating the needs for international experts. And definitely international experts can get involved from whatever country you're representing, or your organization or company or university is. We definitely want to make sure that international representation is involved in all standards development. And that's really one of SCB's goals.
Very much the same thing. Are you looking at global regulations and implementing these strategies to incorporate representation from all stakeholders? And I just wanted to add one point. It also depends on the working group, but I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so we are looking at global regulations and making sure that global regulators are involved in all of these discussions and this harmonization and collaboration. And really, a lot of the standards that we are focusing on are definitely voluntary consensus standards, which can help in your regulatory review and those kinds of things. But the vast majority of standards that are out there and are really great resources for the public and really will help ease the manufacturing process for many different manufacturing of many different products, are voluntary standards that can really be applicable across global regulatory bodies. And I think that that's one thing that's really a great thing to point out, to make sure that everyone's aware of, is that they, beyond just regulations, that standards are a great resource to help in product development and actually help in making sure that you're meeting regulations, that there's a lot of consensus-based voluntary standards out there that a lot of people aren't aware of that can really help and really be used in this way and really help with that, whether you're international or no matter what country you're at, that it's not just about the guidances and the regulatory rules that are in place, that there's a lot of other resources out there that can really help as well.
Dawn, I have a quick comment and then another question. If companies are looking to develop their products for international use, it really is our goal to make sure that we have international input in all of these working groups, which kind of helps bridge the differences in different regions. So if that is a situation you or your company is in, I very much encourage you to get in contact with us. And the next question is, it's a comment and a question. I think that translational research between academia and industry is more important for regenerative medicine than for small molecule drugs. How do you think it is best to educate academia in each country about the various standards discussed in SCB?
I think that's a great point and question. I think that that's an excellent point, that with regenerative medicine and all of these new technologies that are coming out and the great strides that are happening so quickly in this field, and the vast variances when it comes to these products and the manufacturing processes across these products, I think it really is important. It's critical, even more so than with small molecule drugs, to that translational research aspect is really important. And I think making sure that translational research is really happening and is supported is critical. And I think that the best way to educate people is really I wouldn't say there's necessarily a best way. I think there's multiple avenues that have to be approached in order to educate the community. I think we have to, have a multi-pronged approach or to reach everyone in different areas. I think we need to have, and I think that's one thing that's really great about this forum, is that because it's pulling together all these different organizations and allowing for that collaboration and harmonization, it can really create that opportunity across all of these international members, across all of these different organizations, to reach those members and really educate those members through different things like webinars, workshops, courses. And if you have all these organizations working together to share that same message and have that information and access to that same information in multiple different ways and multiple different venues, I really think that that's the best approach. And I think also the other thing that we're trying to do is simplify the way to find that information, and have a resource to find that information easily for anyone who's looking, so that they don't get discouraged or have trouble finding it if they're wanting to get to access that information. I think that those are all critical ways of trying to educate the community.
And SCB is looking for ways to specifically engage different companies, translation centers, and academic institutions. And we're also starting something kind of new, that if your company or translation center, or really anyone needs something very specific, just reach out to SCB and we can speak directly to you and really kind of tailor make a presentation that will hopefully really help you understand the standards process and how it can make your life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this can be for, any type of organization too, any sort of large member body organization, or a small company or anything like that. We're happy to try to share that message in any way we can, and really provide that resource for you guys, and present or share that information with you.
Or even if you're an academic who's thinking about, branching out and, creating your own startup, standards are the way to go. They will make your life so much easier, and it will make the steps ahead infinitely less easy.
And I think SCB's goal is really to help do that, and really help anyone who needs it in making sure they can implement these standards and learn how to implement these standards and get access to the information that will help them do that. But also help them get involved in getting these standards developed and have a say. If you're not able to get involved in these standards as they're developing, and review the drafts and provide comments or get involved in a working group, it really can limit your say in these standards that are being developed and used by the whole field in general. We're also looking for opportunities to engage specifically, with any companies, translation centers, or academic institutions. Definitely, we're looking for those opportunities. Anyone who wants to engage with us one-on-one, we're happy to do that.
Hey, Dawn, I have a question you're going to really enjoy answering. Are you planning to include sponsors or other manufacturers to try and harmonize processes and labeling, among other things?
Yes, we definitely are. We are looking for sponsors and manufacturers to sponsor these efforts, for sure. As a nonprofit, we're always looking for that. And we're also looking for experts to get involved in them too and provide feedback and input. And labeling is a great question to bring up. That's actually one effort that we have been involved with over the past little over a year or so, with a large group of stakeholders to help develop and revise the ISBT 128 labeling for cell collection products intended for cell therapy, gene therapy, tissue engineering, manufacturing. And that actually has just been published in December. It's a ICC BBA published it. It's a revised revision to ISBT 128 to include all of that necessary information that's now needed, that beyond what was on the traditional apheresis labels. And that is kind of where that chain of identity, chain of custody group that's now underway and working on came out of. And I think that there's also definitely opportunity for any other labeling needs as well, where that's a critical area that we can work to address as well. But we're always looking for sponsors to get involved and help sponsor any of these efforts, and help it sponsor this work, as well as experts to get involved and provide input and feedback.
We would love clinical sponsors of different trials to join things as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just in case it was asking about that kind of sponsor.
Yeah.
and I think we may have touched upon this, but I just want to make it really clear to everyone. We really do our best to make sure that our working groups are as balanced and have all of the stakeholders that are required to write a good standard. So that involves people who are working on the technology themselves, people who are using the technology, the people like the suppliers, and the regulators, and companies large and small. So anyone who's on this call, there's a way you can contribute.
And I think another thing to point out that is because we want to make sure everyone is represented, there's really no barrier to getting involved in these groups. There's no cost, there's no, we definitely want to make sure you guys are involved and engaged in these groups, but there's also it's all volunteer and no really barrier to getting involved. And I definitely want to take a few minutes and remind everyone to fill out the survey. The link is in the chat. And we'd love to have your input. It's a chance to not only give input on this webinar, but also a chance to give input on the forum itself and provide feedback on the forum itself or ideas or for the forum itself, as well as in general about standards development and some of the efforts that SCB is underway as well, provide feedback on those as well. So it's a great opportunity to do that.
There's also a way to sign up for SCB updates within it. So if you want to save yourself emailing us directly, there's a place to provide your information. And we have about 5 more minutes. If anyone has another question or any more questions, we'd love to get them in while we have the time.
Yep. Please feel free. Any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll give it another minute to see if any new questions come in. And also give everyone a chance to fill out the survey.
There was a question early on in the talk. For the starting materials, have we approached biospecimen vendors?
Have we approached what?
Biospecimen vendors.
Oh, I think for the cell collection, the standardization of the apheresis, I think you might be able to answer that a little better, Katie.
Oh no, I don't think it was. I don't think that was that group. I was thinking it was the ancillary materials type thing.
Oh yes, the ancillary materials. Yes, definitely for the ancillary materials group that we have vendors and suppliers certainly involved. But we're always looking for more. So if there's anyone on the call who would want to get involved from that area, we're happy to have your input.
And as far as the apheresis cell collection, yes. And another question, are we having an annual meeting this year?
Yes, we are planning an annual meeting for September. So I think things have shifted around a little bit because of COVID, so it's a little delayed this year, but we will be having an annual meeting in September, and we will be sharing more details on that as we get closer to that date and more specifics. But we will intend to have a large open public meeting in September, and we intend it to be similar to the meeting we had prior to COVID that was sponsored by the FDA and NIST. It will have a similar annual meeting like that, where we'll really be focusing on educating, engaging everyone on standards development and kind of what's going on currently in the field, and give people an opportunity to get involved there in the meeting and provide opportunity for people to ask questions and learn a little bit more on implementation of standards, as well as questions about the regulatory aspects of getting standards into your manufacturing process and get people a chance to ask questions of regulators. So that will be in September.
And just got another question that I think I will take. When will the course be available? So the first course we're going to focus on is cell counting, and we're hoping that one is available for people in probably 6 months or so. We also will have smaller webinars that aren't quite as in-depth as the courses themselves will be, and won't have the ANSI-accredited certificate to go with them much sooner than that. So again, please just sign up to get our updates, and we'll keep you informed.
And the intention is that after that first course in cell counting, we will be developing further courses on specific standards, things like ancillary materials, the labeling standard that we talked about, and training for implementing those standards as well. So the cell counting is really just the first one that we'll be releasing, but we intend to hopefully release others shortly after.
And actually, that was a great question, and that brings me to a point. If you are interested in having a bit of a say in the courses to really make sure that we're hitting the points that are important to you, I'm currently working on the cell counting course. So if you would just reach out to me, just email me. I would love to set up a quick call and to get your input. So I'll put my email in the chat again.
Okay. And with that, I think we're just on time. Unless we had any more questions, Katie?
Someone was asking for more details about our September public meeting.
Oh, yes. So like I said, we will be definitely putting more information on that as we get a little bit closer to the date. But it will be virtual at this point. It will be a virtual meeting in September that will be formatted similar to that previous meeting that we have, where we'll have a kind of a mix between presentations and actual discussion and working groups where people can ask questions and really get involved in hands-on efforts. And so it'll kind of be a mix back and forth between those to make it a more productive meeting that keeps people really engaged. But it'll be a chance for people to, like I said, learn more about standards development and the current areas of standards that have been published and what's under development, ask questions, learn more from the regulators, as well as learn more about the general field itself, of regenerative medicine field itself, and kind of what's going on. And also some more information on really how to get involved in some of these efforts if you have interest in that. But we'll be releasing a lot more information on that as we get closer to the date. Great. So with that, I think I will thank everyone for participating and being involved in this webinar. And if you have any questions or want to learn more about the forum, please contact either Katie or myself at czander@regenmedscb.org or dhinkie@regenmedscb.org. And we will be putting all of these slides up publicly and sending them out, as well as this recording. And we'll provide our emails and more links with that as well when we put them out publicly.
And we're going to send out the survey too if you haven't gotten a chance yet.
Yeah. Great. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, everybody. Did those of you who have stuck around, are you waiting to ask additional questions? Thanks, everybody. I'm going to end the meeting for everyone. Have a great day.